Hello again, everyone, and welcome to our new panel presentation. This will be moderated by none other than Bill Laboon, and we have some important guests today joining us in this particular panel. So we're going to be talking about identity, transparency, and privacy with Teun from Litentry, Manta, Kenny should be joining us from Manta, and then, of course, Dmitry from Subsquid. So welcome, everybody.
Hey, happy to be here.
Hey everyone. Yeah, so I guess while we're waiting for Kenny, we can all just do a quick round of introductions for the people that are here. Just who you are and what your project is. So just for those of you that don't know me, I'm Bill Laboon. I'm head of education and grants at Web3 Foundation. Dima?
Hi everyone, I'm Dima. I'm co-founder and CEO of Subsquid. So we at Subsquid make the data accessible. So basically, whenever you do analytics or build a UI for your app, we're here to help.
Thanks. Teun?
Sweet. Hey everyone, I'm Teun, Director of Growth at Litentry. We're a decentralized identity aggregator, and we mostly provide you with tools to truly start owning your Web2 and Web3 public data, to manage it and to leverage it to engage with dApps in a more customized way and find perks and benefits that you can unlock with your identity data.
Okay, thanks. And Kenny?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here. My name is Kenny, and I'm one of the co-founders of Manta Network. And Manta Network specifically specializes in on-chain privacy using zero-knowledge proofs. Yeah.
All right, thanks. All right, so you've seen the title of the talk about identity, transparency, and privacy. So I guess the first thing I wanted to ask about, and I think people will be curious about, is what exactly does it mean, identity on chain? Is this different than having an identity in real life? What are the differences between what we normally think of as identity in the off-chain world? So I'll throw that out there for whoever wants to start.
Dima, you want to go?
Yeah, actually, I was thinking that you want to jump in. I guess Litentry is focusing on that. But yeah, to me, it is a very clear difference in delineation here, because our real identity is bound to the place where we were born, and this is something that has no real indication of what we do in our life. Some people hold passports that allow them to travel. Some people hold passports that are not that respected. You may or may not share the rights of your country. So I'm Russian, but I'm also hold a Swedish passport, and basically I'm lucky. But some of my colleagues, they do not have this privilege. Yeah, that's a big difference from identity in Web3, where basically it is only your activity that identifies who exactly you are and who you want to be perceived. And I think this is a real breakthrough in the way that we organize ourselves as a society and assign certain rights, privileges, and also the way that we interact with each other, right, without actually relying on where we were born. That's kind of the way I see it.
Yeah, and Teun, it looked like you also had something to say on this.
Yeah, I think what Dima is saying is a very good introduction to what we at Litentry call the governmental identity, or the federate identity, which is usually owned or controlled by one centralized party, usually a government or one of the bigger tech monopolies. It feels that the Web3 identity, the decentralized identity, the on-chain identity is indeed based on your achievements, your transactions, the interactions, all of the public data that is out there. But for us, it's also very much an internet-ready identity, an identity with which you can unlock so many new features that you couldn't with the others, such as authorizing credentials, storing assets, sharing different messages with each other in a decentralized way. That's really what we are hoping to unlock also with the decentralized identity.
Okay, and Kenny, is there anything you would like to add to that?
Yeah, sure. So I think that Dima and Teun both touched on various aspects of identity that define, the differences between real life identity and on-chain identity. I think one other sort of difference, going back to on-chain privacy, is the lack thereof currently, at least for on-chain identity, right? In real life, you don't need to know my social security number, despite the fact that it's part of my identity. You don't need to know my birthday, despite the fact that it's part of my identity. You don't need to know what I'm wearing. I can close the door, right? But there's not really that equivalent on chain. Basically, every action that you take, as Tuna described, is fully viewable by anyone with internet access, right? As long as they are competent to go enough into a block explorer, at least today, right? But with AI, with analytics technologies, tools, right? It's just a matter of time before it becomes accessible to anyone with or without some sort of technical knowledge. So I think that's also one difference that frankly needs to be solved. Yeah.
Yeah, so that actually brings up, it's a good segue rather into our next question. So you mentioned there's been this a stereotype, right, of blockchain technology. It's totally pseudonymous, totally anonymous, which I think we all know, right? People that are involved in the blockchain industry, that's not the case, right? As you said, anyone with a blockchain explorer can look up your identity, get all sorts of information about what you have done on chain, and we've seen some instances of this happening in the past. So I guess the question is really, what are then the benefits of even providing even more benefits and drawbacks of providing even more information on chain, associating your identity even further? And is there anything we can do? And I know, and I'm saying this sort of hypothetically because I know there are things we could do. I'd just like you to discuss them, to help save some of our privacy while still having an identity. So really two questions here, right? What are the benefits and drawbacks of having this identity on chain? And then are there any ways that we can protect and sort of have both of them? So Kenny, do you want to continue? You were already sort of halfway to the topic there.
Yeah, sure. So one major benefit, I think, especially on chain. Thanks, Carlos. I just saw that comment pop up on screen. This is my bad hair. So one major benefit here is I'm sorry, I gotta stop looking at the comment section. One major benefit here is that, especially with on-chain activity right now, at least in the short term, you see this proliferation of bots, right? Because not to name any names, but a lot of other networks and apps that we're launching zk-SDTs for, which I can get into that if time allows. But regardless, the point being that all these networks, all these applications, they suffer from bots, right? You see someone or you see a network all of a sudden have 500,000 wallet addresses in one day. Come on, you're not kidding anyone, right? So the question now is with Web3 growing as quickly as it should, what's the real usage of blockchain? And so being able to identify real users and understand real user behavior, real user activity, right? That's important, not just on the level of just measuring the market size, but also product development. Are you getting feedback from bots? Or are you getting feedback from real people, right? There's a lot of implications around on-chain identity that are really applied even today. And I think even in the future, 3 to 5 years from now, right, with the proliferation of AI simultaneously as we're continuing to grow the Web3 space, we're already seeing use cases both altruistic and nefarious and just fun. Fun being, for example, that one content creator who decided to create an AI version of herself and sell her AI voice for $70,000 a week, right? That's kind of a very novel example of something that could actually be used fairly nefariously, right? We've also seen case studies where you have simulated voices of children who call their parents and ask for certain information, right? How do you identify what's a real person and what's an AI? I think that's a use case for identity on chain that extends beyond just like on-chain activities and very much applies to the real world, where you're able to use decentralized self-sovereign identity that only you control, that can't really be accessed by any sort of centralized entity, that allows you to prove your personhood. You're real, not a bot, not an AI. So yeah, I mean, those are just like some sort of use cases. And I think the second part of the question was more around the privacy side. And so around privacy specifically, I think that the on-chain privacy, people liken it to Tornado Cash and the issues around money laundering and all the bad behaviors. I think that the bad behaviors are really attributed to a lot of selective bias. But I won't go into detail right now, but can talk about it later if needed. But the point is that I think that if we have on-chain privacy, we're not really asking for something so special. We're actually just trying to ask for what the traditional internet already delivers to users, right? When you use a bank account, you have to log in with your password. I can't see Teun's bank account information. I can't see Dima's bank account information, right? Without stealing their identity. And that in its own case is against the law. Whereas on Web3, all I need is their wallet address. And now I have is their complete financial history on the blockchain, which is surprisingly, from my perspective, a bit too transparent.
Yeah, it is interesting, right? Because blockchain, if you look at the early days, especially of Bitcoin, we thought like, okay, everything is anonymous or pseudonymous, but it turns out no, you actually are giving a lot more information than you expected, perhaps. So let's maybe go in reverse order here. So Teun, so what would you say are like the positives and negatives of having identity on chain?
Yeah, we have this good comparison within company, like using your one single blockchain address or one wallet address to log into every single dApp and experience is kind of like showing your complete bank statement when you're paying the cashier in the supermarket, right? You're taking all of your transaction history and you just give it up for grabs. So within the identity industry, and I'm sure Manta will also be very familiar with that. We have this concept called selective disclosure. We just give away the amount of information that we actually would like to give away, or that is relevant to this certain situation that I'm in. We're bringing our contextual self. We're bringing our necessary self to the application. So if I'm trying to log into a DeFi application, then I'll take hopefully just the credentials or the amount of information that is relevant for that specific dApp to provide me a customized experience, like we're actually used to in Web 2, but yeah, in Web 3 we control our own data. And then there's the technologies that allow that, such as CK proofs, and Litentry doesn't necessarily use that. We use trusted execution enclaves, which is a hardware-based solution to add this additional layer of privacy on top of the blockchain, which I do think is necessary. Blockchains are amazing systems because they have this transparency, this composability, immutability, but we do need that extra layer of privacy added on top of already kind of like a wallet hygiene that is quite necessary, that everybody should be aware of, that everybody should take in account. So yeah, that's a bit, that itself also tells the downsides and upsides, right? We own our own data, we can take it anywhere, we can migrate it anywhere, but that also means that we need to start actively manage our identity data. I think that's maybe the biggest shift between Web 2 and Web 3 in terms of identity data. It's from a passive management of our data to an active management of our data.
Yeah, interesting. Dima.
Yeah, this is really, like really great points. I can speak from the point of view of data indexing and data collection, that what we basically are focusing on right now. And I would say that user-centric indexing is something that is, I believe, going to be huge. And this is going in line of moving more and more functionality to the user applications. So instead of like having kind of backend servers that serve the data, we will see a lot more dApps that will have sort of an integrated wallet within. And the indexing will also collect the user-specific data from multiple sources. And this data may be private and encrypted with the private keys that are available only on if you connect the specific wallet. So basically, from the data perspective, I see identity is somewhat like as a fuzzy concept. Basically, it's like a cloud of all the data that is attributable to a specific address. And we already have the required technology that allows to shield this information from the outside world. While if you do have this private keys, this allows you to collect it from multiple sources and basically provide a very rich experience from the end user, which may be, and it is very portable. So you can basically use this information across multiple chains and multiple universes and multiple dApps. So I think that this technology also relies on the way that you can efficiently fetch this data and decode it client side.
Okay, so I see we have a bit less than 5 minutes left. So just sort of briefly, and this really goes off of what Teun had said earlier, that you really need to have an active role now in thinking about privacy when you're dealing with blockchains. So maybe maybe we'll start with Teun, since you brought it up. What are some of these considerations that you should make and some of the trade-offs that to actively manage your identity?
Yeah, in the infrastructure that we apply to add that layer of privacy, as I mentioned before, wallet hygiene, just making sure that you keep certain wallets compartmentalized. You don't mix them all up. Maybe some are for your cold storage or whatever you want to do, and some are really your hot wallets. You go out, you get them dirty, so to say. I think that's a good one. And then pick a system that allows you to manage your identity. Pick a tool, pick one of the emerging identity providers or identity tooling providers to go and play with them. Explore the different opportunities that are out there. People are talking about soulbound tokens. People are talking about NFTs as data containers. We personally are fans of verifiable credentials and decentralized identifiers. That's all very related to self-sovereign identity, something that most of us are a fan of. Go explore that, educate yourself on how those technologies work. And also know that, well, that's at least my personal opinion. I think it's still pretty early for decentralized identity. I see so many cool innovations and projects pop up. And the problem right now is we're at this stage where all the protocols are still very visible and still need to be abstracted away, need to be implemented, such as Dima said. A good comparison is when we send an email, we're no longer thinking on whether we're using IPOP or IMAP. It's just part of our Gmail experience, and that's what should happen with decentralized identity as well. So it's pretty early. If you're interested in it, go explore, go see what's out there, and there will most likely also be some opportunities for the early adopters.
Yeah, thank you. And I know that's a good reminder. I know that my bill identity on Kusama is definitely very dirty, and lots of people have seen it, and I've done a lot of stuff there. So Kenny, would you like to go next? What trade-offs do you think people should be aware of, and how they should actively manage their identity on chain?
Yeah, so there's so in terms of trade-offs specifically, I see there's two sort of camps of how people are managing their on-chain identity these days. The first camp is multiple wallet addresses. So people tend to think that they can create a new wallet address for different types of identity, maybe holding certain NFTs in one, others in others, some crypto in this one, some meme coins in that one, et cetera, et cetera. And so the trade-off here is essentially you have to have a system of managing all those different wallet addresses. I personally have a lot of nightmares trying to figure out which wallet address has what. So over time, it's just it's a factor of time, and it becomes essentially unmanageable over a long period of time across all the different wallet addresses. And so I don't think that's a very sustainable solution. The other camp of trade-offs that people make when trying to proxy for on-chain privacy is they mix the assets through a centralized exchange, in which case, you will be protecting your identity in some manner on-chain, but off-chain, this information obviously goes to the exchange. It goes to the analytics tools that the exchange uses. It goes to the other clients that the analytics tools have, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's not really a pure form of privacy. You're just kind of shifting the viewability from the entire internet to a select group of centralized entities. And so, what are some good practices? Not to kill Manta Network, but if you do use Manta Network, we have a private payment system. We have private SBTs, and so if you're trying to do payments, you're trying to hold NFTs, you're trying to collect components of your identity using SBTs. It can all be done through Manta Network, and you don't have to use multiple wallet addresses. You can just use one CK address that holds all of your identities, holds all of your transactions. There's proofs of those transactions without revealing anything on chain. You don't have to worry about going through centralized exchanges or anything. So yeah, I mean, that's my answer.
Okay, thanks. And Dima, we're sort of running out of time, but if some last thoughts on this, on the trade-off?
Yeah, I'll try to be super quick. I think we're missing on the powers that be. Basically, we should fight all this pressure from the regulators and protect our non-KYC rights. So then basically it is impossible to track the actual address to the real world identity, real world person. Yeah, but I think it's more of a general remark about the privacy, which is kind of it scares myself. That's basically my this dimension that we should always think about.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much. This is a very interesting panel. And I think Funky, if you want to bring it up to the next panel, this has been great. Thanks, everyone.